Hello everyone and welcome to the Toku Portal Podcast, Roundtable number 13, Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir Season 1. I am Vashi V and joining me today are...
The Little King.
And Rye.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is a night I have been waiting for 6 months of my existence. And it is finally here!
Say, this isn't live-action Japanese superhero show? No, it is not.
Instead, it is French tokusatsu.
Yes, this is a French CGI superhero show, created by Tom, Artuk or something? Sorry.
And a part of my life for the past 4 years now.
Yeah, so at the time of recording this, Season 2 recently ended, and Season 3 is getting ready to air soon. But Vashi finally sat down and watched Season 1, so we're going to talk about that.
Because if it's not Kamen Rider or Super Sentai, apparently it takes me a long time to binge something.
Apparently. I was actually shocked at how slow you're going on this compared to just a normal show.
Well, I mean, in my defense, I was binging Kamen Rider Phase and then Kamen Rider Kiva for upcoming podcasts.
True.
Plus trying to spend time with the wife and, and all that. So it was like, this ended up becoming a vast secondary thing for me to complete. Which is nothing to say about the quality of the show. Because, oddly enough, the show is great.
It is.
Keep in mind, little behind the scenes, folks. I'm the one who introduced Rye to this, so I'm kind of the domino here.
Yeah.
And for me, it's an odd situation. My wife pointed this show out to me a very long time ago. And it kind of slipped my mind to even pay attention to find out really what it was. And then King had got Rye to watch it, and Rye's like... And it was during Kamen Rider Build. And what he told me holds true more for the second season from what he says, but it was, you should watch this. The villain is more defined...
The villain is a better villain than the main villain of Build, Evil.
Fight me, bitches.
So that pushed me even further into watching it, so I'm like, yeah, might as well. And it's not that bad.
I first heard about this from Phantom Strider, a YouTuber who reviews cartoons. I believe it was in his Best Cartoons for Girls video. And when I heard about this, I was like, I should watch that at some point. And then I never got around to it until months later when King brought it up again. And she's like, yeah, you should watch it. I was like, yeah, you know what, I should.
And as for me, well, I've been sticking with this show literally since it aired in France. Like, no joke. These two know I'm impatient when it comes to raws and subs. Oh, where do you think I started? Miraculous is had been a part of my lifestyle since, I want to say, my early high school years, actually. So,
Yeah.
The fact that we get to do this here, you can imagine my excitement.
Yeah, so some of you might be confused. That's a long time for the show to only be on 2 seasons. Season 1 was written in, 3 months because the creator didn't have the time to, develop it out. He just had to, get something ready to be put into production. And then when it did well, it got approved for a Season 2, and then they took their time going forward from there. So there was actually a huge gap between Season 1 and 2.
Which, given how little story advancement there is for Season 1, it makes sense.
There was also their mission statement of they wanted most of the episodes to be viewed in any order. And that still mostly holds true for season 2, but you also start to get a few plot important episodes.
True.
It's like when I sat down and watched it, as like I was given what I knew about it, it was nowhere expecting something of this quality, especially after, because it's on Netflix. For those of you who don't know,
it's on everything, honestly.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's where I watched it. Hey Netflix, fund us. But I sat there and I looked through like the episode list for it, and like seeing some of the bad guys to start with is like, this looks like shit.
Oh man,
because a lot of the images on Netflix are of the villain of the week.
So remember how I said season 1 was written in like 3 months?
It really shows.
Yeah.
It shows.
But what these two forgot was the process, because there's something about Miraculous that no matter how stupid it might look and how terrible quality it might be, you just can't help but want to see more. That's how they get you.
Right, and it holds true. It's like, because I watched the first episode, whose villain is, what, the Bubbler?
Yeah, that's the official first villain.
He is the most balloon animal looking motherfucker I've ever seen. Like,
and infamous for that.
I've seen terrible CG. Like, I grew up in the days when CG was just starting, so in the age of Reboot and Beast Wars and, you know, the start of CG being a massive thing for entertainment. It's that level of we don't give a fuck.
He looks like a 90s knockoff cereal mascot.
Or, if you want to get really meta, a 90s Toku villain. If you look hard enough.
With that being said, though, the overall CG quality of the show is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is. Like even the villains throughout, as the season progresses, gets progressively more detailed. Most notably, the Pharaoh.
Oh yeah, Pharaoh had a lot of like research put into him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's a villain where like he ends up with basically like 5 or 6 different powers that he can use through the different Egyptian gods. And as he uses the particular powers, his masks change to suit the power that's being used. So when he's creating mummies, he has Anubis. When he's using his sun power, it's the Mask of Ra, and so on and so forth. It's like they did a phenomenal job with that villain, both in research and detail.
And at the same time, adding in their own lore of Miraculous by twisting in the Ladybug's history along with stuff. That's freaking genius!
So, let's get into our characters here. The premise of the show is that there are magical fairies, I guess you could call them. They're called Kwami, that possess special powers. And it's not really explained on the show, but I believe it was confirmed that they're as old as the universe itself. Their power to better help humanity was sealed inside magical objects created by a wizard that are now called the Miraculous. And so, if you hold one, you control that Kwami and can use its power. And so the villain of the show, Hawkmoth, has a Miraculous. And its power allows him to grant superpowers to ordinary people. The intent of this would be normally to create a temporary ally to help you out and do good. But he's using it to create temporary villains to lure out the real heroes to take their Miraculous. Ladybug and Cat Noir's. Ladybug's Miraculous is the power of creation, and Cat Noir's is the power of destruction. And they say that if you control both of them at the same time, you can grant any wish you want. So that's what Hogma is after.
So, for lack of a better term, you're God.
Not only that, but the Ladybug and Black Cat Miraculous are basically known as the yin-yang of the Miraculous. Their powers are an equal balance, good and bad luck, and beyond the wish, they can create a massive amount of power. So you can see why somebody like Hawkmoth would want it, regardless of the wish.
And Hawkmoth's Miraculous is the butterfly one, hence the moth in his name. Why is the word hawk in his name? I don't know. He's some kind of predator.
You could say that.
And for definition, not that type of predator. This is America that has bad connotations here.
He's a bird of prey. Sorry.
Sorry, I have to make jokes. Yeah, I'm assuming it's more the whole with him being able, because like he doesn't leave his house as Hawkmoth.
Nope. He doesn't leave his house ever.
He senses that somebody has, didn't get what they wanted, and now they feel like crap about it. So he transforms a butterfly into an evil Akuma,
Yeah, Akuma.
And sends that out to infect the person. They can communicate telepathically, blah blah blah. So I'm equating the hawk part to the fact that he can apparently see very, very far away and knows what's going on when nobody in their right mind should be able to do so.
Right. Season 2 answers part of this, because he's specifically targeting people with high amounts of negative emotions, particularly anger and frustration. He has his Miraculous rigged to alert him when there's someone in Paris feeling a high enough level of that for him to go after them. The sight part, how he can see what's going on from a distance, probably has to do with the Akuma itself, but he's usually talking about their situation before he even sends the Akuma, so it's unclear.
Well, that could be the his Miraculous feeding him information for telepathically why they're feeling that emotion.
Right. Because he can't see everything. Otherwise, he would know who the heroes are. And he's not allowed to know that, because then the show would be a lot faster.
Which, based on how the end of season 1 is...
Yeah.
So, our heroes, Ladybug, Marinette Dupeng Chang, a high school girl with a good heart, and she is the most clumsy, kind-hearted person you'll ever meet.
And with a killer sense of fashion designing.
So she's a female Ryotaro.
Pretty much, but with a head for designing. And a major crush.
And hasn't gotten a bike stuck in a tree.
Not yet!
Don't jinx it!
Remember that time Ryotaro got hit with 3 balls in a row at a park?
Ugh.
Yeah,
well,
let's
he's come close to that, let's be honest.
He's come close, let's just wait for that to happen.
But above all, she does have a really good heart. If a bit of a helpless romantic, because if there's one thing people know about our dear sweet Marinette, it's that she is blissfully in love with our other main protagonist.
Adrien Agreste, Cat Noir. He is a fashion model because his father, Gabriel, is a fashion designer. He makes his son model his clothes. Forget that he is also in high school. Forget that part. So Marinette, yeah, she has a big crush on Adrien. She's too afraid to ever approach him about it, though, and whenever she does try to talk to him, it usually goes horribly. Adrien doesn't have any interest in Marinette, though. Cat Noir, however, his superhero persona, is in love with Ladybug. But Ladybug has no interest in Cat Noir because Marinette, of course, likes Adrien. So you have the most convoluted love triangle with two people.
Now, love square. And this is one part that a lot of fans have a bit of an attachment to, myself included, though not nearly as strong as others, I will admit. Because that part is absolutely infuriating. Because, and I'm sorry to steal your thunder, bud, but I gotta get this out now. Neither of them know the other's identity. So all Ladybug sees is Cat Noir, and all Adrien sees is Marinette. Do you people see where I'm going with this? And do you see how infuriating that can be sometimes when they are constantly playing cat and mouse, Vashi, don't you dare, over the fact that they're in love with each other and they don't even realize it?
Like,
Excuse me while I get rid of the migraine.
It's a good use for how they interact. And it actually shows kind of like their motivations for why they do the things that, like, the way they behave. Like, throughout the episodes, pretty much all Marinette cares about, aside from helping her friends and, you know, generally being a kind person, is I want to spend time with Adrien. That's her ultimate goal. Which does come into play in one of the episodes, where she is actually the cause of somebody becoming a villain.
Yeah.
Because all she cared about was spending time with Adrien. Then you get Adrien, who, as Adrien, they're okay together, but he doesn't care. Because he knows Ladybug.
Either that, or he's the most oblivious boy this side of frickin' Paris. And that goes for him and Cat Noir.
Well, we can't count him as oblivious because we have to follow the tokusatsu rules of, you know,
Yeah.
certain things that happen should be very obvious.
Like, some of you are probably wondering, hey, shouldn't they recognize each other's hair, faces, or voices despite the mask that only covers their eyes?
One of many arguments that I've given over the past years. Thank you, Rai.
Well, magic. You're probably also wondering, hey, shouldn't they at least recognize each other's personalities? No, because they all act differently when they're transformed. And I have some theories about that.
Basically, since Marinette's a klutz, Ladybug is as graceful as any ballerina would be jealous of, and tactical too. And Cat Noir goes from being the soft-spoken sweetheart that Adrien is, to the wisecracking, pun-loving, and fast on his feet Cat Noir. Thankfully, they're both combat skilled, and they know when to drop the jokes, but point is, they don't act anything like their normal counterparts unless they either slip up or other reasons.
Cat Noir is not as smooth as Marinette expects Adrien to be.
Yeah. Because, and it is because of his infatuation with Ladybug. he gets kind of stupid around her.
Ah, c'est l'amour.
But there's also one other instant which I pointed out to Rai. Pretty much anytime Adrian speaks to Marionette, she wigs the hell out. Arms all over the place, the whole 9 yards. Like, as if you, like, startled her into having to give a speech. There's a scene where she's protecting Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
And Adrian, obviously, is Cat Noir, so he's sneaking out. And she ends up going in to check on him. He's locked in the bathroom.
Pretending to take a shower so that no one walks in.
Well, she ends up walking in, and he's back. He's not naked, but he's still acting like he's in the shower. And
right, like he like peeks around the corner, like,
"Can I help you?" At which point, Ladybug, is basically she ends up doing the same thing that Marionette does. The wigging out, arms all over the place, and it's one of those like, come on, that wasn't fucking obvious. You have literally, based on what we know, what we have physically seen, they have only. She's the only person that he's interacted with that is like that.
Yeah, I'm not letting that slide, trust me. But don't get us wrong, folks. They actually have tried to show some sense of putting the dots together. In later episodes, they actually have tried figuring out Hawkmoth's identity. There have been instances where, you know, they're getting close enough that they can be better trusted in one another. And yes, in order to increase my frustration around the globe for all fans, there have been repetitive incidents where they have come within an inch close to figuring out one another's identities, be it on one side or the other, or even at the same frickin' time. They have come close many, many, many times, and yet it always just drops and they never get to see each other's identities for the umpteenth time.
So for those of you who are wondering, well, why don't they just reveal their identities? Because they aren't supposed to. They need to keep their identities a secret, to keep them a secret, basically. Like, if it got out that, like, hey, this person is a superhero, then the villain knows where to target her all the time. The villain knows to target all her friends, knows specifically how to get her to her. And if you're wondering, well, hey, why can't they just tell each other, just the two heroes? It's a fear thing of even giving out information to one person is a lot, and you never know where that information might end up. Not to say that she doesn't trust Cat Noir, it's more like she can't take the risk of anything happening.
And Cat Noir, don't get me wrong, he has tried to reveal his identity to her. I think on multiple occasions. One I can at least remember thoroughly. But he does it less so out of protection and fear, and more so out of respect, because this isn't just some puppy love. He truly does care about, admire, respect, and dare I say it, love Ladybug with all his heart. He does not care who is under that mask, and he does not care what happens to him if she knows what's under his.
There's an episode in Season 2 where he straight up daydreams about taking off his mask in front of her and revealing himself.
Much to my chagrin, because the previews can be a bitch, though what else is new with Toku?
Yeah, the previews didn't make it clear that that was fake, and some people weren't happy about that.
Myself included. I'm sorry.
Like, it's one of those things, like, watching it's infuriating to sit there and see like them not figure it out. Especially with as quickly as they figure out who the Akuma are. It's like, you have that detective skill, but you can't figure out who each other are.
Honestly, the akumatized villain will make an offhand comment about why they're angry, and Marina will instantly be like, "Oh, it's this person."
And not only that, there's also detective skill in trying to undo the process, considering how Hawkmoth does it.
Right, so how Hawkmoth akumatizes someone is that the evil butterfly, the Akuma, enters an object of that person's possession, and that's how Hawkmoth possesses them. He makes a contract with them. They are technically under his control, even though they still have their own will to act on their own. And to save them, they have to break that object, so they have to figure out which object on their body it is. And then the butterfly will be let free, and then Ladybug has the power to purify it again and break the contract. Why does specifically Ladybug have that power? That's not explained.
But the point is, they're able to figure out who it is, what their powers are, and how to undo it, and yet they can't even figure out who the other person they're fighting is.
Like, it's to the point where there's a villain called Stoneheart, who he basically became a villain because he was in love with someone.
He had a crush on a girl, but he was too shy to tell her, and a classmate made fun of him for it.
At which point he crumpled up the note. The Akuma infected the note. So when he became Stoneheart, he basically a giant man made of rocks. She figured it out where the Akuma was because he never opened that fist.
Though, to be fair, he is literally just a giant the thing. So he is entirely made of rocks. He had no object on his body.
Right. It's like, but it's an easy one to make. It's like, but in the middle of a fight,
right?
For her to figure that out with Eddie's, but can't figure out who that is Adrian.
And to take that one step further, that was her very first fight.
Oh boy, those were the days. And back then, she didn't know to purify the butterflies, so we got a round 2 out of that one.
Tiki told her to do it, she just forgot.
Yeah, after the fact.
No, Tiki told her beforehand. Like, before Marinette transforms for the first time, she's like going over the list in her head, and she mentions, and then purify the, whatchamacallit, Akuma. And then she forgot to actually do it.
Because she got distracted.
Yeah, but still.
Which leads to the next problem of, well, what happens if you don't purify it? Does he just repossess them? Yes. After it multiplies and possesses everyone.
Turning them all into slave versions of the main one.
Turning them on to all copies of that same villain. And once the original reakumatizes, they gain control of all the copies. And that's my problem with the Butterfly Miraculous. That is a really strong power.
And they never use it after that again.
Because after once, would you not want to, like, Akuma, make sure you de-evilize every single Akuma? But, like, the limits of the powers that we are shown, that particular one is absurd.
I mean,
even this is Toku.
Sort of.
Because through it all, there's 3 limits that we've seen. We have Hawkmoths, who apparently the Akumats can multiply and create massive fucking havoc. You have Ladybugs, whose basically power is to A, de-evilize the Akuma, to create a lucky charm that will help them get the Akuma, and then fix every single fucking thing that got broke while that thing was akumatized.
I can understand that because her powers are creation, so fixing the damage caused during the fight isn't out of hand for me.
And then you have Cat Noir's Cataclysm, which is basically
Which-
he rusts anything he touches.
He kills anything he touches.
But it's
And, like,
it doesn't.
I'm talking completely decimates it.
And before anyone asks, no, he hasn't used it on people, though there have been plenty of people voicing their opinions on what that would be.
It came close once, but not of his own will. Because when he during the Dark Cupid episode.
That was a fun Valentine's Day.
But like, it's to the point where like the majority of what he uses his for is, I need to break this Wi-Fi transmitter.
Or, in a lot of cases, whatever the akumatized object is, like, hey, free break! Like, sometimes that object is as simple as, hey, it's the cell phone she's holding, so they can just take that from her and snap it in half. But then there's one in Season 2 where, it's like a boxing helmet.
But like when you think about it, is like the limit to, at least in the fact of how it gets used, he has the weakest of them all in terms of grandiose use.
But he also has a really strong one because, again,
It can destroy
anything he touches.
Like, he can destroy the Eiffel Tower if he wants to.
Oh, yes, and there's proof.
And yes, the Eiffel Tower gets destroyed in this show like every other episode. The magic
But-
ladybugs fix it every time.
Yes, thanks to her powers, which is basically, well, like we said, he's destruction, she's creation, since ladybugs are good luck. But her powers are a bit more on the janky side, if you can believe it. But it does prove her tactician skills, because that girl can make something out of anything. Quite literally, actually.
So her powers work in a very weird way. When she uses her lucky charm, she gets an object that is useful in that situation. She then has to like figure out how to use it. And that is an order of operations that I have mixed feelings about. Because there's some unprecedented force that determines what she exactly needs in that moment for her. As opposed to her going, if only I had a crowbar, and then she uses it to make a crowbar. And it comes into play a lot better in Season 2, where it starts giving her a message of like, hey, go talk to this specific person. And that's where it comes into like, would she have thought to do that on her own? Not the first time, at least.
Well, I mean, if you go through Season 1, she's really good at that. Like, creepily good at that.
Yeah. Oh, here's the best part, though. After that's finally all said and done, and she does deakumatize the butterfly and everything goes all hunky-dory, she will then throw that object up into the air and trigger her miraculous ladybug, which is basically where magic, pretty, red, sparkly ladybugs of love swoop around all of Paris and fix everything. Damage, magic, pain, the frickin' Eiffel Tower on more than one occasion. All of it just goes poof, and then the Akuma person goes back to normal, not having a frickin' clue what's going on, and then they pound it with victory. Yes,
yeah, like one villain freezes people in ice, the ladybugs like undo that completely, they're fine. And for the villain outfits, this is one thing that I've been wondering about. Because I feel like, should we say who Hawkmoth is, first of all? I mean, we're already kind of getting...
It's part of season 1, but screw it, why not?
Okay, so if you follow the clues, some of them more blatant than others, you can figure out that the real identity of the villain Hawkmoth is Gabriel Agreste, Adrian's father.
Dun dun dun!
Who is a fashion designer. And so I just always assumed that he was the one that, like, the villain costumes have to come from somewhere. So I just kind of always assumed that he designed them on the fly half the time. Like, because they are very specific to the villain. So I feel he probably just gets a rough idea in his head and it comes to life. Which would explain why the season 1 ones, some of them are pretty wonky, because he's still not accustomed to, like, having to think on the fly in immediate design. But then later on, he gets a bit more creative, clever, or more simple designs that don't require a lot of thinking.
Case in point, look at the before as stormy weather, and for an after, Volpina. I rest my case.
Fashi?
That actually makes a fair bit of sense, and it's something I haven't thought about. My brain just went, hey, it's the costume they wanted. Because it's like, they always seem to coincide somewhat with the powers, or the reason they're doing what they're doing. Like,
we know that Hawkmoth definitely decides what power he gives them, which is why I figure the costume, he also gets a general idea for that as well.
Right, and I mean, he is the one who names them too, so I mean, that's fair. Because yeah, it's like as you start out through the beginning of the series towards the end, is like they get more decent. Because you go from the bubbler who literally looks like a balloon man, to Volpina and
to like Volpina, Darkblade.
Ooh, yeah, his was awesome.
Even Pixelator has a pretty complicated design.
Ooh, what about Kung Fu? The Goku jokes write themselves.
God. The only pass that I give that outfit is the fact that a lot of the mythos for Dragon Ball is Chinese.
The Buster Sword?
Well, no, it's just more meaning his outfit.
Fair.
Because like a lot of Dragon Ball, like if you read the manga and all that, it's like it's not called the 4-star ball. They use there's a Korean name for it that they use. The same thing with Shenron, and like everything involved with that aspect, the dragon and all that, comes from that world. Same thing with like the martial arts stuff and all that. It's like it's all Korean. So it would make sense that you have the one Korean villain dressed in a Korean fighter's outfit, complete with Super Saiyan hair.
Let's be honest though, there have been a couple swings and misses, like Copycat and Anti-Bug, just to name a few.
Well, Anti-Bug's design was on the nose.
Yeah, but it was a complete palette swap. Talk about unoriginality. And Copycat didn't even try to be different.
I mean, Animan either. Like, Animan just turns into animal, so he didn't even get a costume.
He was just an animal that had a bracelet.
That made it stupidly obvious to figure out what to target.
But, like, Anti-Bug, even with it just being a reverse palette swap, it's like, that makes sense. Like, through, like, even through tokusatsu and stuff like that, it's like, some of the more anti-Rangers have always been kind of like palette swap versions of them. And
it still looks good. Like, I give it a pass. And the thing about Volpina is that, Gabriel had the book which depicted previous heroes. So it makes sense that he borrowed like ideas from the designs he saw in that.
So what better way to create a false Volpina than to use the image that he saw in the book of Volpina?
So, just for reference, the book is of a bit more of importance than you think. Not just for Hawkmoth's sake. Did you really think that these two geniuses were running solo?
Yeah. Creepy Asian Chinese man.
Yeah, that's right. There's a mysterious benefactor who is actually a past hero himself. And
Yeah.
a freaking old one.
One of the reveals is that there are more than just the 3 Miraculous that we've seen.
Which we get that reveal in the origin episodes. Which is like, what, 3/4 of the way through season 1?
Almost the
Yep.
entire way. It was the last 2 episodes.
That's up for debate, because episodes didn't necessarily air in the intended order.
Right, because in Netflix that's episode 15 and 16.
Yeah. So, but definitely like the second half of the show.
Which is when you find out he's got a green Kiwami.
Yep.
A turtle!
So, you know what? Let's talk about their names for a second.
Ah, yes. We're gonna start that
So-
one.
So Adrian's Kwame is Plague, which is kind of a play on the word plague because he destroys everything. Master Wang's Kwame is a turtle. His name is Ways, which sounds like wise.
And or wave.
Or that. And then Ladybug's Kwame is Tiki. I'm not entirely sure what the significance of her name is supposed to be, though. But looking it up real quick, her name means happiness in another language. It could also be based on the Estonian word that means creation, which is fitting. Also, all the Kwame have double letters in their names. That's just a running gimmick.
Yeah, we don't know why. The Ladybug one, Tiki, has 2 Ks. The Black Cat one, Plague, has 2 Gs. Really, the
Wait.
list just goes on and on, but there's too frickin' many of them.
And then,
Nuru.
Nuru. Yeah, that's the name of Hawkmoth's Kwame. And I have no idea what that's supposed to mean.
And I'm gonna advocate for Nuru at this moment because she is an abuse victim.
She?
Tell me I'm wrong.
I thought Nuru was a guy. Technically, they're genderless, aren't they? But still.
Yes, but still. I am considering them to be an abuse victim because Hawkmoth,
Yeah.
in case you hadn't guessed, because he's the main villain, is a dick.
Yeah, Gabriel just straight up verbally abuses Nuru.
And abuses his power.
And you find out in Season 2 that the Kwame are bound to obey their master. So Nuru can't, like, run away and find help, because all Gabriel has to say is, "You're not allowed to leave my side," and he physically cannot leave the same room.
At one point, he even made it so that Nuru wasn't allowed to talk. Until he felt generous. Oh, and here's the kicker. That time he tried it, that was Nuru's birthday.
So, I looked it up according to Ostrich, because he wrote it on Twitter what each of them means. Tiki means happiness, and Plague does mean plague.
Yeah, but what does Nuru mean?
That one hasn't. that's not listed, at least not yet. I'm still scrolling through the page to see if Nuru pops up.
Control F.
I'm not on my computer. Or I'm not looking it up on my computer.
Alright. So, for those of you wondering, how many Kwami are there? I'm not going to tell you because it's a spoiler for Vashi.
Then I probably shouldn't be scrolling through this article.
I mean, if you want to spoil this stuff for yourself, go ahead. But some things are better left unspoiled because you'll get a better reaction of it when you see it.
Yeah, yeah.
You're probably actually seeing things right now that I wish you hadn't.
Yeah.
Can I give them a hint?
Sure.
I really want to watch Ronin Warriors now.
Think Zodiac. Huh?
I really want to watch Ronin Warriors now.
Here's a hint for everybody out there. Think of the Chinese Zodiac.
And then add more.
And then put it into jewelry.
Because we're French.
Seriously though, there's actually a piece of jewelry for every single Miraculous. Not just the 5 they show in Season 1.
Yeah, that's the, those are the Miraculous themselves that house the Kwami. And you hold the Miraculous, you control that Kwami, you can use them to transform into a superhero. Or if you're Hawkmoth, a supervillain.
This can range from anything to necklaces, jewelries, anklets, bracelets, freaking headgear. One of them is a nose ring.
One of them's a choker.
Kinky.
Shut up. It's just PG, damn it.
Yeah. We could go more on into this, but again, I don't want to spoil too much for Vashi.
But
so let's
real quick talking about Hawkmoth, because before we got on the Kwamis, that's where we were at. Even with him being as loosely explained as he is in Season 1, at least his goal is clear. And
he wants the 2 ultimate Miraculous for the ultimate power.
Because he wants to control creation.
What he wants to do with that, you don't know yet, but I assure you it's a good reason.
And we believe it at that because this is Season 1 talk.
But I mean, it's like, even based on that, it's like, he's, back on the reason why got me to start watching this, that alone makes him a better villain than Kamen Rider Build's Evolt. His plan hasn't changed. He's not influenced.
His plan isn't overly convoluted either. Like, his plan makes perfect sense. I get the Miraculous. I control the Miraculous. How do I get the Miraculous? There's the complicated part.
Right. It's like this is one of those series like where like you can tell it's Toku in the aspect of, hey, I'm a big bad guy. I don't want to do the dirty work. So I'm just...
It helps that his power is specifically meant for him to not have to.
So he's the literal version of the puppeteer. Twofold.
So, like, for I would take it as, what is it, the Banki tribe in Goanger?
Oh, yes.
The villains in Goanger.
Aren't they the Gaiark?
Gaiark, or whatever.
Or is that someone else?
It was something.
No,
I think
it's the Gaiark.
It's the Gaiark. I think I have my villains messed up.
Oh yeah, Bonky Clan Gaiark.
Yeah, the Bonky. So I wasn't wrong.
You were.
I just didn't complete
technically
it.
Correct.
90% of what they do is, this is what our plan is. You know what? Fuck it. We're gonna get this other guy to do it because we're gonna get. It's like this where there's a specific reason we chose them. Because they have this ability, which is what, granted, Hawkmoth really is just out of pure luck that villains are popping up in the way they are.
Which is somebody in Paris gets mad.
And then he goes, hey, and the powers are always relevant to whatever they were doing. Or, like...
Yeah, they are very personalized.
Can we talk about my favorite catalyst for akumatizing besides Hawkmoth and Marinette, please?
Well, we're going to get to the side characters.
Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that one in a minute.
We're going to get to her after we talk about Marinette's friends.
Okay.
But it's that type of level of, yeah, I could probably do this myself, but why bother? Because in theory, he's got enough power to do it himself. Albeit there will still be help involved, because if you have the ability to create an army, why the fuck not?
And for our heroes, when they use their special power, like Cataclysm or Lucky Charm, they basically eat up their battery, and they have a few minutes before they transform back. And you might notice that this few minutes is very inconsistent. Well, you find out in Season 2 that Hawkmoth himself doesn't have that time limit because he, the user, is just strong enough that he doesn't time out when he uses his power, which is why he can have someone akumatize for as long as he does. So in theory, the inconsistency for our heroes can be explained by they're just getting better at this, that the time limit is going away for them.
See, I didn't even make that connection for Hawkmoth. I was just assuming he was detransforming after he made the Akuma. I didn't realize he had to stay Hawkmoth for that.
Oh, he doesn't, but he doesn't start to time out, you'll notice. Like, he has to stay transformed to talk to the Akuma telepathically, but it's also revealed that he doesn't have to stay transformed for that villain to exist.
It's just more the whole, hey, go do what the fuck I told you to do.
Yeah, he needs to keep them in check, as you see with Evillustrator, who, instead of trying to, like, lure out the heroes, tries to take Marinette on a date.
I mean, if I had superpowers, I'd take my wife out on a date.
Especially when your superpower is you can just make anything by drawing it.
Fuck yeah. I'd Bruce Almighty the fuck out of the moon. But yeah, it's like he's even going throughout the series, like you see him, because like we don't get much interaction with him with the understanding that he is Hawkmoth, unless you're like me, who's like, yeah, that's probably him in the first episode.
Yeah, I had a coworker who had seen a couple episodes in passing, and I was telling her about it at work one day, and she asked me, like, wait, who is Hawkmoth? And I told her, and she's like, what? I mean, it makes sense because he's an asshole, but still.
I mean, I figured it out based on the fact of I pay attention to voices in animation more so than I do in, like, Sentai and stuff like that. Because that's 90% of the show is what you're hearing. So when a character has the same fucking voice, I'm gonna notice. Which is why it was so easy for me to pick out Vic Morgana in this show.
AKA the voice actor for everyone, but most importantly, Broly.
And Edward Elric.
Oh yeah, and Edward.
And Christina V, who's a Power Ranger.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that.
Also, Adrian's English voice actor voices the main character in one of my favorite JRPGs, Bravely Default. And Alex's voice actress also voices a character in that game.
Nice.
Alright, so I need to get some water real quick. I'll just be right back.
But like the further you watch in the shows, like you start to see Hawkmoth piecing things together. Because like the whole big thing is he doesn't know who they are. All he knows is that Ladybug and Cat Noir exist, and he needs their shit. But there's a point towards the end of season 1 where he recognizes the ring that Adrian has on.
That doesn't even come into play again until season 2.
Right. But it's in terms of like developing a character and showing that the character is getting smarter based on interactions that he's having with people, and the noticing how different his son is acting.
And you're probably wondering, but they're wearing special magic jewelry. Wouldn't that stand out? No. The jewelry has disguised forms that they take on when the user isn't transformed. Because their special form is when the Kwami is inhabiting them, which they do when they are not in possession, or if the hero is transformed. When the hero is not transformed, the Kwami is not inside them, they have a disguised form that they take on. So Adrian's normally black ring is just a white ring that has a vaguely similar design.
As do Marinette's earrings.
Yeah, her earrings, which are normally like Ladybug designed, red with black dots, are just pure black. They just look like regular earrings. No one would notice. Hawkmoth's is a brooch that, when he transforms, sprouts butterfly wings.
Only it's on his person and one of the most obvious parts of his clothing design. So, really? Come on now.
Well, when he's not using it, he has his tie over it.
Ew.
So we talked about voice actors for a second, and I actually know where I know Adrian from.
Where?
Attack on Titan.
Oh, he's in that too?
He's Eren Yeager.
Oh, he's also Melodious in Seven Deadly Sins.
Yes! Oh, man.
So yeah, it's like...
I like him. He's a pretty good voice actor.
That he is.
And the first place I ever heard his voice was in Trigun. He plays...
he's in...
When they do the flashbacks of Knives and Vash...
Yeah?
He's Vash.
Wow. I did not catch that when I was watching Trigun. Alright, so let's start talking about the supporting cast here. Marinette's best friend is Alia. She is a superhero fan. She likes reading comics about superheroes. And then actual superheroes start popping up in Paris, and who wouldn't love that? So what she ends up doing is she starts up a blog for Ladybug, the Lady Blog, and she just has no idea that her best friend is Ladybug this whole time.
But never let it be said that Aya isn't dedicated. I'm talking finding herself either in the middle of or a victim of Akuma attacks. And yet she'll still keep that camera going.
Oh yeah, the Pharaoh straight up kidnaps her, and she like tries to interview him in the middle of it.
As he's trying to basically sacrifice her.
Yeah, he's like performing an Egyptian sacrifice on her, and she's like, "And what's your goal with all this?"
And let's point out the fact that the first villain to show up is on her first day of school.
Yeah, she's the new girl.
She's the new girl.
She just moved in.
And there's a villain attack.
And she gets hyped. Like, and everyone's like, aren't you afraid of the villain? No, because there's gonna be a superhero to fight the supervillain. Aren't you excited?
Like I said, never let it be known that that girl is not dedicated.
And she has this mindset with no definitive proof that there's a superhero in France.
She is actually like read too many comics, but it ended up helping her.
Not only that, don't let the nerdy look fool you. She is very perceptive. Granted, not to the point of knowing their identities, but hell, don't beat a dead horse. Point is, the girl's a lot more observant than people give her credit for. Not just because of a lady blog.
Like, she uses actual evidence to try and figure out Ladybug's real identity. And it doesn't help that Marinette is clumsy and makes mistakes.
The history
Whoops!
book?
Dropped my history book while fighting a villain. And Alia picks it up and realizes, hey, not only is this a high school history book, only my school uses this particular one.
What are the odds of that?
Honestly.
Not to mention, there have been plenty of times she's heard Marinette's voice, and... Okay, I said I'd stop beating the dead horse, but come on!
Rules of Tokusatsu.
Okay, but in season 2, she actually, like, pulls up a recording of Ladybug's voice while talking to Marinette, like, yeah, like, all we have to do is try and compare this to all the voices of every girl in school. And Marinette, like, stops her there, like, don't you think there's a reason Ladybug keeps her identity secret? And just changes the topic so that Alia doesn't try to do it on her.
But literally photoshopped a picture of Adrian to make it look like he's Cat Noir. And she doesn't put it together. Come on, people!
Rules of Tokusatsu.
It's really bad. Okay, I have to mention one more thing in season 2, where Marinette and Adrian accidentally get drafted for a music video about Ladybug and Cat Noir as those characters, and so they're in 90% of the costume without the face mask, and they're both afraid to put the face mask on because they are afraid that they'll get recognized.
Wow.
Right?
Like, really? That's the point where you're worried?
And yet you don't think to turn around and see the other person and then just put the mask on and think, wait a sec.
This is some Fies level of bullshit.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
But yeah,
like,
other than that, she's a sweet girl.
It's to the point where, in terms of like trying to figure out her identity, it gets to
Sorry, what was that?
In terms of them trying to figure out, like her trying to figure out Ladybug's identity and all that, it's too she's so close to doing it to where Tiki goes, no, hey, go here. Don't ask questions, just go. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, here, use this is a diversion.
And it still takes her a good portion of the episode to figure out, to go, hey, look, there's a hieroglyphic that looks like Ladybug.
Oh, hey, see, Ladybug's been around since ancient Egyptian times. She can't be a normal high school girl in this age.
Way to just throw that in the left field.
Because, I mean, there's never been a superhero who's passed down his powers before.
I mean, it only works for a little while.
Still.
So, that's Marinette's best friend. Adrian's best friend, Nino.
AKA
the bro dude. Nino is a chill guy. He's very earnest and sincere. And he always has headphones around his neck.
Which, surprisingly, he never used whenever there was a supersonic or noise-centered villain. Interesting.
Like, Nino doesn't really stand out all that much, but he's not a bad guy. Like,
honestly, other than Marinette and Alia, he's Adrian's one tie to a normal life.
yeah, that's really his role in the show, is to give Adrian a sense of normalcy amongst his father being rich and famous and keeping Adrian on a strict schedule of you go to school, you come home, you do your Chinese lessons, and then you practice your piano before bed.
And keep in mind, meals are almost always guaranteed to be alone in a big-ass dining room. So yeah, you kind of want somebody to share the love with. And no, there's nothing about Nino being in this for the money. The only reason he was akumatized to begin with was because he was trying to defend Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian spends more time with Natalie, who takes care of his schedule for him, than he does his own father.
And I say again, bitch!
And his bodyguard, who also chauffeurs him around, doesn't talk at all, so no going to him for a conversation.
Like, I think with Nino, the most his character really gets fleshed out beyond being that dude for Adrian is there's an episode where it turns out that he's in love with Marinette.
He just had a passing crush on her.
And then ends up locked in a cage with Alia and ends up in love with Alia.
Yeah,
they actually become an item.
Yeah, they start dating, which was kind of weird because it's like, really? You hit it off with Nino? Alright.
Personally, I've been waiting for it since the intro episode.
And then there are, like, the various other classmates. But let's talk about the real villain of the show.
Can I start?
Chloe!
Go
on.
Yes! Fuck this bitch! I know she's better now, but in season 1, fuck her! I've been wanting to get that off my chest for years.
So, as we know, Hawkmoth akumatizes people that are experiencing high levels of anger, stress, and frustration. In Season 1, we're talking approximately 26 villains. Chloe is responsible for, like, 11 to 12 of them.
One of which including herself. I say again, fuck this bitch.
I mean, she did kind of lead to herself getting akumatized, but that's still also Marinette's fault.
Yeah, for basically calling her a liar.
Which she was.
But at the same time, she was trying to help. And she was right
She was trying to help.
So, like, that one's still technically on Marinette. But yeah.
Yeah.
But she's a bitch!
Oh, we're not defending Chloe.
No way.
We're just saying she didn't akumatize herself. Just like a dozen other people. Including, I think, almost the entirety of the class. Like, I think the only classmate that Chloe doesn't akumatize, aside from herself, is Max, which is the other one that Marinette does in Season 1.
Although that one was unintentional.
That was completely unintentional. She didn't realize how much she was hurting him by taking his place in the video game tournament. And yes, that's what happened. She took his place in a video game tournament.
When you're a gamer and you get shafted like that, trust me, I liked Marinette, but I was rooting for him.
Oh, Ivan as well. Ivan was akumatized by Kim. He's Stoneheart.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, Chloe in Season 1 is a bitch. Considering Season 2, I'm gonna leave you guys a little hint. They don't call her Queen Bee for nothing. But she takes that level of bitchery and being an all-around horrible person to the next level.
Like, a lot of the people that she pisses off, she has no reason to do it. She has no motive or, like, anything to gain from it. It's just the opportunity is in front of her, and she just does it.
let's not even get started on poor Sabrina. Oy.
That girl gets used left and right.
Honestly, if it wasn't for Chloe, she's the one I wanted as the advocate for the Be Miraculous, but that's neither here nor there in season 1. So,
let's not get into that.
yeah, we've had that argument plenty of times, and I'd really rather not get into it. Moving on.
Yeah, Chloe bosses Sabrina around, who just takes it because she thinks that she's best friends with the mayor's daughter. Chloe in no way sees Sabrina as a friend. At all. And she isn't afraid to make Sabrina cry.
Or downright miserable.
It's not until Sabrina finally just has enough that she gets akumatized into Vanisher, where her superpower is that she's just invisible.
But she was entirely justified in her akumatization, if I'm being perfectly honest.
So she uses her power to just torment Chloe and act like a ghost.
Doesn't even have any ulterior motive other than that.
Revenge is a bitch.
And
Karma's a bitch, let's be honest here.
it's when Ladybug ignores Chloe's advice on how to save her, i.e. where the Akuma landed, that Chloe ends up akumatized herself as Anti-Bug.
One of the better episodes, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, Chloe is the biggest Ladybug fan, despite being a horrible human being.
Besides all you?
Yeah. Yeah, they're like the two biggest Ladybug fans.
Well, I would say Chloe is the biggest, seeing as Chloe cosplays as Ladybug. and Alia doesn't.
Yeah, Alia just runs her fan page.
That's because Alia has a dignity. Chloe can just buy another one. Oh,
Yeah,
tell me I'm wrong.
In addition to being the daughter of the mayor of Paris, her father also owns a hotel. So her room is just like the luxury suite.
Not to mention her mom is also a rich fashion designer, too. So...
More of a fashion critique.
True.
She runs a magazine called Style Queen.
And is almost never home.
Yeah, no, she's a bee, got a magazine to run.
Still...
What does she need to spend time with her daughter for?
I don't know, non-family scarring?
Some of the parents in this show, for real.
Oh my God. Honestly, I can be... Okay, Marinette's parents are good, even though later on there's something with her dad.
Marinette's parents are fine.
Yeah, they're the nice ones.
Alex's dad is great. Like, it's her birthday, and he's just trying to have a nice lunch with her. He gives her her gift, and then tells her, like, okay, you can go meet your friends if you really want to. And he's just completely understanding about it. He's really sick of her older brother, though, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'd say Mono's parents or mother is okay too, even if she does seem to be a workaholic.
Nadia Chamak. Well, when you're a news reporter in Paris and there are literal superheroes out in the world,
right? It's like, but like through everything, it's like the worst you see her do, and it's not even a bad thing. Is she basically goes, "No, you have enough toys at home. You don't need to take this one from Marionette."
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's how the puppeteer happened.
Because she's a literal child.
Yeah, Manon is like 8 years old.
Manon?
And she's kind of a brat, but she's fine if you know how to handle her.
Case in point, oh yeah.
Like most 8-year-old kids.
Oh, what about, oh man, what the hell's her name? The one who became the mime.
Oh, Milan's dad.
Thank you, yes.
He seems like a solid guy.
He was just screwed over by his coworker.
Yeah, he likes theater.
And just happens to always be late.
But his coworker screwed him over that time.
That time.
Sabrina's dad is the cop.
Yeah, he's kind of on the fence, because sometimes he's nice. At least
He's
Sabrina.
that cop. That cop that's like, are you really writing up a ticket for this right now? Like, aren't you taking your job a little too seriously?
He wrote a ticket on a guy who was sitting on a bench feeding the birds.
Yeah.
Which led to Akuma.
But when push comes to shove, he does treat Sabrina well.
It's like, I think my only issue with him is, like, they have him back and forth between seeming intelligent and also seeming like that airhead cop.
Huh?
I think he's mostly just the airhead cop.
I think it's mostly like his interactions with Sabrina and then the students during that whole somebody stole Chloe's bracelet.
Honestly, though,
Pin that on Marinette.
Chloe just outright accused Marinette based on no evidence other than she doesn't like Marinette. And Marinette didn't make the situation any better by turning that around and saying, on that logic, you could accuse anyone in this room. This was during a career day episode where all of their dads are in the room as well, trying to be like, hey, could you stop arguing so we can actually figure this out?
Yeah, there's a reason I emphasized on Ladybug being a good tactician, because sometimes Marinette's impulsiveness and her temper with Chloe, yeah, that can cause her to trip in more ways than just physical.
Oh, and one more parent. Alia's dad is the zookeeper who becomes Animan.
Oh, yeah, huh?
Yep.
He's okay, it's just you never see him around as kids.
Yeah, he seems... So he's very much a nurturing type because he clearly loves animals, but he's also, like, clearly that serious kind of father.
Considering he has he has 3 daughters, one of which
4.
is a blogger and a nerd, the other is a pro wrestler, and he has 2 twins?
Yeah, 4 daughters.
Yeah, kind of have to be.
But Nora is, like, she's an adult. She's, like, I don't even know if she lives at home.
Yeah, true, but still, you had to raise her.
Yeah. Yeah, she was probably a handful.
Bet those wrestling matches turned up with more losses than he expected.
How long have we been going, Vashi? Vashi?
Good.
It helps if I unmute it. 1 hour and 18 minutes.
What? Holy shit, that's a new record!
Well, not for...
maybe for you.
Maybe for you. This is about standard when we do the open cast.
I think our record is actually something like 90 minutes.
Nice. Well, we're almost there.
The first one we did, I think, was 2 hours.
Oh yeah, that's right. The first Key Ranger one, because
the Blade Cast.
Oh yeah, we also did the Blade Cast. Yeah.
Are we counting Heisei Generations?
No, because that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but that was 2 friggin' hours.
2 hours that no one will ever get to hear.
Sorry, public.
Wasn't that one my fault?
No, that was our fault.
I think it was my fault. Like, we don't know what happened, but I was the one who was streaming it.
Okay,
and
yeah,
yet only 2 of our voices came through.
That's right. Mine was one of the actual podcasts, then 0, and somebody else ended up doing it later on.
Oh yeah, I did that with Zero later on. Okay, so I want to go through like just a quick rundown of each villain and general thoughts on them. Whether you liked the villain themselves through their power, design, or whatever, or if you just generally liked that episode. So to start things off, the Bubbler. What I really liked about the Bubbler's episode is the debate that he has with Ladybug about how children should be treated and such. Like, just like this actual debate on like protection versus letting them have their own space and doing what they want, kind of thing.
Nature versus nurture.
Yeah. It was a nice little like discussion that they had in the middle of their fight,
and it was a good social commentary too. Especially if you seem to look at the differences between like how a lot of the older generations were raised versus how some of the younger generation seems to be being raised, where it's gone from more of a we're gonna teach you how to act to you're gonna just figure it out on your own. The premise of it being if there are no parents involved to teach kids right, wrong, what they should and shouldn't do, it's chaos. Whereas some people feel that going that route is wrong and unfair to the children. So I mean, it was a good social commentary, even if the villain looked like shit.
King?
Yeah?
Any quick thoughts on Bubbler?
Well, it's the episode that got me hooked on the damn show to begin with, so... I mean...
So, there you go.
Yeah.
Alright. Mr. Pigeon. This is my least favorite villain out of all of them.
Aww.
That is all I have to say about him.
I mean, he wasn't terrible, but he was easily forgettable. Mainly because, like, a lot of these people who become villains throughout the shows, like, there's a personal connection, if not through friendship or a family member or something with most of these villains. He was just some random guy in the park. Literally the only connection that they had was the fact that, what was it, Stephanie?
Who?
Or Roger Kopp. His daughter.
Oh, Sabrina.
It was Sabrina's dad that gave him the ticket. Beyond that, there was no connection to anybody other than, oh crap, we've got to stop this guy.
Just his power in general. Pigeons. They're like the worst bird.
Sky rats.
Any thoughts, King?
Okay, I'll admit that I can agree on the fact that the villain's a bit forgettable, but damn it if there weren't a lot of memes to come out of that episode, particularly Cat Noir dancing. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Plus, one of the more obvious things that they ratingly don't point out is the fact that freaking Adrian's allergic to feathers. So's Cat Noir. Come on, people!
Rules of Tokusatsu.
You've said repeatedly already that this isn't normal Toku!
Oh, I fully admit and accept that, but that's literally the only excuse there could possibly be.
I'm doomed.
Stormy weather. Great powers. And just overall a pretty good episode. Nothing too stand out about it, but you know, it's like this. It's like the episode that's like the median in terms of quality. Like, if all episodes aim to be that good, then we're fine. That's how I see that episode.
Fights, though.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, it's like she's like fairly mediocre villain with a decent set of powers, and yeah, overall kind of forgettable. Is like, but it had its unique charm, which I can say about every single one of the villains, even the Pigeon Man.
Timebreaker. One of the best villain designs in Season 1. Not only can she time travel, she's like the only villain to actually kill any actual person on screen, including one of the heroes.
Still makes me cry.
And this is on her birthday. Like, this is, like, Alex is one of my favorite supporting characters. She makes a great villain.
It's like, and this is, I think, the first one that we see that Chloe is responsible for.
That what?
That Chloe is responsible for, even though I would still technically put the fault on Marinette, because does nobody know what the fuck a pocket is?
Okay, so that is... Okay, Chloe is ultimately the one, like, who's the most at fault for the watch getting broken, but everyone that held it for those 2 seconds is equally responsible for not keeping their hands on it.
Marinette and Adrian included.
And Alia, because wasn't Alia...
And Alia.
Alia was the one who...
Alia was also involved, because for some reason she couldn't hold that and film the race with her phone at the same time.
Because apparently you have to have 2 hands on a phone that small.
Like, I would say Adrian is the least at fault because it was Chloe stole it from him.
And at least he did keep doing the whole, no, give it back.
Yeah. I would say the order of fault from least to most is Adrian, Marinette, Alia, Chloe.
But yeah, it's like, because literally nobody knows what a pocket is. It was literally a pocket watch. They belong in pockets.
No,
Marinette even has her handbag for keeping her essential items.
To include Tiki. But, like, so far through the majority of Season 1 is like, I like Timebreaker the best. Only because her power was, one of the more unique ones, beyond, oh, I can control people, or I can basically use video game logic, which kind of gave me X8 flashbacks. But, like, if her plan went south, all she had to do is touch a few people to kill them, and then travel back to the time. At which point there's 2 of them, and in theory could have continued this process and been unstoppable. Because literally, wasn't it the only way, or the only reason why Marinette went back was because she was touching her?
I think so.
So if that wouldn't have happened, it still would have been 1 on however many times she would have done this. To me, that, aside from the Vanisher, had the best odds at getting the Miraculous. But no, she just had to be oriented on, I'm just gonna run around and kill people.
Yeah, the thing about the villains is that Hawkmoth doesn't directly control their actions. He just tells them what he wants them to do. And so they're motivated, their anger is fueled by a cause. Their number 1 goal is whatever that cause is. For Timebreaker, it was, I want to go back in time and fix my watch. So, Copycat. Do you want to say more?
Yeah, I was talking for a minute and my mic was muted again.
Oh. Go on.
But Hawkmoth basically goes, well, something went fucked up for you. So I'm going to give you the power to do what you to rectify the situation. But while you're at it, get me these, and I'll give you the powers. If
you get your revenge
if you agree to get me these.
yeah, I'll help you get your revenge, and you do something for me in exchange. And then when they accept the contract, they get their villain outfit, and their powers. So, Copycat. This guy's an asshole. But this
great idea for a plot.
It was also a good way to see Hawkmoth experimenting with creating evil versions of heroes. To the point where the fake Cat Noir straight up has the same limitations as the real one in terms of using.
Copy his voice.
Yeah, Copycat is not an understatement. He literally just becomes Cat Noir. If his battery had run out, he probably would have just turned back into his normal form. But it still would have been technically akumatized.
I liked Copycat. Because like you said, it kept the same rules as the actual one. So it made it for the villain to have a unique challenge to overcome, even if he didn't.
Any more on this, King?
I liked Ladybug tripping Cat Noir over twice. That was funny. But actually, this is one of my favorite episodes. I mean, the idea that even though Cat Noir does love and respect Ladybug, he's not above pointing at her faults. Which means he doesn't exactly have a major bias. I'm not saying he doesn't have any, but I think that this episode proves that he knows her flaws and her weaknesses, and he's willing to back her up with them. And him.
And I do like how she figures out which one is the real one through fake information. Like, she looks at the fake one and goes, alright, if you're the real one, then you know all about this. Oh yeah, I totally do. That was a lie. You're the fake one.
Again, tactician.
The Pharaoh. So this is the guy that kidnaps Alia and tries to sacrifice her in an Egyptian ritual to revive his dead wife. Because when he becomes the Pharaoh, he believes he is actually an ancient Pharaoh. So, yeah. He is literally summoning, opening a portal to the underworld that he is ready to pull someone into. And I have to wonder, what if he had done it? Would it have worked? Would he have actually revived some old Egyptian queen or something?
God, I hope not. Last thing we need is to have Hawkmoth to have an ally. Don't start about season 2, not yet.
Bashi.
Like I said, in terms of design and everything, this is still one of my favorites because of the detail they went into.
You cut out there.
This is still one of my favorite ones based on the design and the attention to detail that went into it. Even if it started out as we're gonna distract Alia so she doesn't so you can get the book back.
Oh yeah, and it's genius because he's wearing mask, the mouth doesn't have to move on any of them, so they could get as detailed as they wanted and just slap on the one they need to. It doesn't have facial expressions. Clever little animation trick.
Which, hence why most Sentai and Toku don't have mouths. It saves on time. But, in terms of overall abilities, he had the best set. Because he didn't just have one. Just through all of this, is every villain has one power. Be it, I can trap people into little spheres, or
I can
turn into an animal. even an extinct one. Or I can control pigeons, or I'm just a cop with a really high sense of justice with lasers because I want to rip off RoboCop.
Yeah, I'm just a cheap RoboCop knockoff.
Because I mean, he ended up having multiple. He's like, he could create minions. He had the power to slow time, didn't he?
Maybe.
Because I think that's how he ended up getting out with Alia. Was Marinette was running and ended up running into one of the balls.
Oh yeah, that's right. He created those time spheres.
And I didn't.
This happens in the Louvre, where like the security goes off and like the jail bars drop down, and he just bends the bars apart to step through, and then bends them back into place.
Which causes Cat Noir to use his power and then time out. But on a side note, who knew that the Louvre would be key to, you know, ancient Egyptian rituals?
Hell if I did.
Lady Wi-Fi, Alia herself, she is also one of the best Season 1 villains. Her powers are entirely cell phone based, where she can do things like hit you with a pause to like make you immobile, project her own image on every screen nearby to like live footage what she's doing. Lock doors.
Teleport from cell phone to cell phone.
That was a fun one.
When she returns in Puppeteer, she has a fast forward that's just a hoverboard.
I love that one.
Yeah, I like her design, I like her powers, I like her style, she's a great villain.
And her motive, too.
Oh yeah, she gets akumatized because she suspects that Chloe might be Ladybug, so she tries peeking into her locker, and Chloe gets her suspended for it. Unfairly, by the way, which is why she gets so mad. It turns out that Chloe is not Ladybug, Chloe just has a Ladybug cosplay.
But still, I mean, yeah. Alia was a victim of the system, as per usual, and a victim of Chloe. Really wish she wasn't. But hey, this is yet another one of my favorites. Partially due to the ideas of it. I mean, it's obviously been established up to that point that Alia is an avid journalist. Honestly, it should be her profession when she gets older. But to see the other side of journalism expressed through Lady Wi-Fi, because all she wants is the honest truth, only now she's using whatever methods necessary to find it. That's one of the darker sides, unfortunately. I'm sure there are plenty others I'm missing here, but my point is, we see Alia as the good journalist who looks for the truth, but when she becomes a victim of lies, yeah, that's when things get a little bit more mental. So it was interesting to see that through Lady Wi-Fi, and hey, made a hell of an interesting fight.
Vashi?
I agree. Her being a villain was unexpected, and it was handled really, really well. The uniqueness of her power, the fact that it was limited to her actually having Wi-Fi capabilities on her phone was different. But it worked really, really well. I mean, even if her entire motivations are, Chloe, you're a bitch. Which is fair to say that's 90% of most of the villains in the show. At least in Season 1.
Even Marinette's family can vouch. Kung Fu was her uncle.
So, unfortunately, this episode also has the infamous moment of, she could have just taken Ladybug's earrings off. Why did she let her go?
Oh, don't forget the closet scene.
We'll get to the closet scene after, but the only way I can justify Hawkmoth telling her to, like, make Ladybug wear out her power is he's still new to this. Maybe he didn't realize you could literally just take the Miraculous off while they were in effect. And that is the only, like, leeway I can give him for why he didn't have her do that.
Like, I mean,
Then-
it could have also been a let's do this to find out who the fuck's been dicking with me this entire time.
Like, he got too prideful for a moment.
Yeah, that, you know what? We're gonna wait a second on it. I want to know who the hell you are.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? Let's make sure all of Paris knows, because you can do that. Then there's also the closet scene where Ladybug is in danger of de-transforming from Cat Noir, so she hides in a nearby closet, and all Cat Noir would have to do is open the door to see who's on the other side, the love of his life, and he walks away.
Because he respects her decision and her choices that much. Despite Plague berating him.
Yeah, like his Kwame Plague straight up calls him an idiot for it.
And yet, he does it because he doesn't want to break his trust. I told you I meant it when I said he truly loves her. This is not just puppy love. I don't care how many puns he has.
Alright. Illustrator. Oh, go on.
Sorry, I just wanted to say his puns are amazing.
Or what?
Amazing.
I'm not saying they aren't. I'm saying they could be used as a counter argument, and I'm here to refute that.
Illustrator.
Yeah.
So I really like Nathaniel here because he showcases what goes on in a akumatized villain's head when they become akumatized. All the other ones that we see have some kind of like personal grudge or mission statement that they go after. And so when they get their powers, it's like, yes, I will use this to its full extent to get what I want. Nathaniel becomes akumatized after being mad at Chloe for embarrassing him in front of the class. But that was just a passing anger. Like, after he attacks her once, he kind of gets over it. And then he approaches Marinette to ask her on a date, who says, okay, but only if you stop attacking Chloe. And he goes, okay, I won't attack her anymore. The only reason, like, he goes back to attacking her at the end of the episode is because he felt like Marinette broke her promise to him, so he wanted to lash out in anger. And he was already angry at Chloe. It's just this interesting situation of the emotional state that the villains can go through, where they don't always feel those negative emotions that cause them to become akumatized in the first place.
And it's done well too. Even though like this is the only time it happens, it's fair to say that this would be true for the majority of the villains. There are some that are just literally don't give a damn, I want to be an asshole now. But like the ones that are doing it for more seemingly personal reasons other than, hey, you made a bad joke about my cat. You know, like pretty much the majority of her classmates. Like having that internal struggle with one kind of points that they all kind of fight with that. Except for Mano. She just wants her dolls.
Then we got Roger Cop, Discount RoboCop. He gets fired from his job, so that's why he gets angry. And he just goes around heavily enforcing the law. And at this point is a good time to mention that the villains don't really remember anything when they get rescued. It kind of comes off as a dream to them, and they don't get blamed for their actions while they were a villain at all, because it's understood that they weren't in their own right mind. They're being possessed by the real villain, Hawkmoth. So ultimately he does get his job back and everything goes back to normal. That's really all I have to say about him.
For me, he was, again, more the dismissible kind of villains. Like, the purpose they made him one was fair, that, wrongfully fired. But, yeah. Beyond the whole... RoboCop was a thing.
Alright. Dark Cupid. So, I like this one. So Kim, for whatever reason, likes Chloe and tries asking her out on Valentine's Day. She absolutely humiliates him for no reason. And he becomes Dark Cupid, and he just goes around using his arrows to incite anger in people and break their love. It's a pretty cool power. He's got a pretty neat costume. He kind of looks like a demon. And overall, it's not a bad episode. When he eventually does get to Chloe herself, he just looks at her for 5 seconds and goes, "You're already a horrible person. I don't need to, do anything to you." And then Chloe gets even more offended.
I mean, in fairness, that pretty much sums up her entire fucking character.
Yeah, I think he might be the only villain with a grudge against Chloe that actively just is you're not even worth it.
And then he's also one of the ones for me that he was the closest to being able to fulfill Hawkmoth's goal. Yeah, he was one of the closest to winning. And he had Cat Noir under his control. And then for King's benefit, you also get their first kiss.
That Cat Noir doesn't remember.
It's because he was roofied.
King's dying inside.
Fucking hell, can we move on, please?
Horrificator, the movie monster episode. Mi-Len is the first villain that Hawkmoth akumatizes out of fear instead of anger, which is really interesting. It shows a bit of variety in how he targets people, and it's a pretty good just episode that kind of plays off of horror movie tropes and such. Meanwhile, Nino is filming the entire thing for their school film project.
Because you gotta have one character who doesn't just give a damn. I liked her as a villain, mainly for the uniqueness and why she became one. Like I said, it wasn't for anything other than the fact that she was terrified of the monster that they had for the movie. And because of that, she couldn't do the role. She panicked, ran out, and became an evil monster herself.
Yeah, she became the monster she was afraid of.
Which, when you think about it, is very good psychology.
And then Marinette remedies the situation by singing Mi-Len's favorite song. Which, why would Ladybug know that song? Ask literally no one.
Rules of Tokusatsu.
Okay. Dark Blade.
Break, damn it, I won't break.
Darkblade. This guy's a fucking stone cold pro. He is the school's fencing teacher that gets turned into a literal knight. That, like, can just turn people into his knight army, and he goes to just conquer all of Paris. This guy is awesome. I like this guy.
And not only goes to, succeeds. Because the mayor does turn over control over to him.
And, like, he's one of the few villains that negotiates with Hawkmoth, too. Because Hawkmoth's like, yeah, just be sure to get me the Miraculous. And he goes, yeah, when my flag sits upon the crown, you will have your jewelry.
Which,
like, when I win, you get what you want.
Which is, this is the turning point in that too, I think, because after this is when he starts going, where Hawkmoth starts going, I'll give you the powers to do this if you get me this at some point. Like, he'll push them throughout the episode to do it, but more if it's right in front of their face to be able to get.
Yeah, they need to lure out the heroes anyways, and he's fair. He lets them have their fun. Like, he lets Stormy Weather go on a rampage for like an hour before he tells her, like, okay, I need you to do this now. Anything on him, King?
Not necessarily. I mean, it was a great fight, don't get me wrong. It's just not really much I can say about this one.
Alright, the mime. It's as it says. He's a mime. He can mime any object in it. It's invisible, but you know it's actually there.
Infamous
one at a time.
For the first time, the Eiffel Tower got chopped in half.
Yeah, and so the last thing he mimes is a wall to hold up the Eiffel Tower so he doesn't get crushed, and that's how they defeat him. Because he's too busy holding up the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do that, I mean, that'd be the best thing to do. Crush the bastard. He'll have to protect himself.
Self-preservation. They're not like mindless zombies. They are still self-thinking people.
It's like, and the fact that they clearly defined his limitation. Even if at one particular moment it wasn't as clearly defined as they had explained.
Right.
Because there's a point where he's being chased, they get on top of his invisible car, he jumps out, they jump in, he gets on a bike, invisible, starts riding off. The car is still there. It takes a second before it disappears, and then they fall to the ground.
Princess Fragrance. This is the first episode that makes it clear that we are not seeing the only villains that Ladybug and Cat Noir fight. This episode opens up with a news recap of a fight they just had of a villain we don't see. Who was going to... a magician that was going to make the Eiffel Tower disappear. Because the Eiffel Tower doesn't already get destroyed every other week at this point. Princess Fragrance herself, Rose, it's kind of sad how she gets akumatized. She is the nicest girl in the class. She's also naive. She asks Chloe for one favor, and Chloe literally tears it in front of her.
Because again, Chloe's a bitch.
And she makes kind of a scary villain too. Because, like, she's normally so nice, but here, she's just, like, straight up ruthless and inconsiderate of everyone around her.
Because all she wanted was a date.
Then we get Stoneheart, which is actually the very first villain. Ivan. And... yeah, he feels like a first villain. Like, all he has is a giant rock body. Like, it's the first time Hawkmoth has akumatized anyone. He doesn't really even have any powers other than he's the Thing from the Fantastic Four. it really feels like Hawkmoth didn't truly understand what he was getting himself into until this. Like, this was the rough draft. Vashi, is your mic muted?
Yes. Sorry. But even for a first villain, it's like it was still a good play. Because while yes, he was just basically the Thing, every time he got attacked, he got bigger and stronger. And then, of course, you have the giant army because Ladybug forgot to do what she was supposed to do.
And you also get to see Ladybug and Cat Noir get their start. Marinette isn't confident in herself, whereas Adrian is like all for the whole thing, except for the stinky cheese he has to feed Plague to be able to transform.
And the fact that it takes Alia to basically point out that she can do this.
Right.
Because she has complete faith in Ladybug, despite the fact that literally she's only ever appeared once.
Animan. He's a zookeeper that can turn into animals, including dinosaurs.
That was a fun one.
Pretty much.
Ladybug got eaten.
Like that, it was just like a fun episode. Nothing too standout about it, but you know, it's good to watch.
And it confirmed that Aya and Nino are a thing.
Yep, that's when Ali and Nino start dating after being locked in a closet together for 3 hours.
I thought it was the cage.
Same difference.
Fair.
Like, one of the more forgettable ones, the best part of it was apparently he can turn into extinct animals too. Because he literally turns into a giant fucking dinosaur.
T-Rex.
He's got he's got a big head and little arms.
I don't think this was very well thought out.
Simon says, if you didn't think Gabriel was Hawkmoth before this episode, you should afterwards. Simon says, has a great power. His costume isn't that great, it's a little cheesy, but it fits his theme and motive. And we get to see Gabriel Agreste pretend to be an airplane and then almost commit suicide.
That was fantastic.
Like, legitimately, the main villain of the series almost kills himself because the villain he created commanded him to do so.
Can you say dumbass?
Can you say that was not worth the risk?
And the sad thing is, right before it happens, he goes, "Yeah, we'll see how this plays out."
Yeah, it's like, putting myself in the fire's way would be risky, but let's see what happens. Yeah, well, something happened.
You can't hypnotize me. I'm an airplane.
Ow!
Oh, don't hurt yourself. Are you okay?
I hit my laptop, sorry.
Oh.
I also like the fact that, like, while the Akumas infect a particular item, this one infected a card in a deck instead of just the entire deck, because he was only holding the one. So the fact that only they had to, well, which card is it?
Right.
Which presented a unique-ass challenge to it.
And just the villain letting go of that object doesn't do anything, because that object still has to be destroyed for the Akuma to be released.
So watching them play 52-card pickup was hilarious.
And Cat Noir can't just cataclysm them all because they're spread about. Pixelator. This guy is the kind of fan that famous people hate, where they spend so much time around you, they think they're friends with you even though you don't actually know them, and they're just being overly obsessive.
Oy.
Cool power, cool costume design. Guy's a dick.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. It's also a good point of like how paparazzi are with famous people too. To the point of overbearing. Please just leave me the fuck alone.
Even on normal standards, this is creepy.
Like, coming to every one of my concerts doesn't make you my friend. In fact, you're being, like, very assertive, and it's putting me off. Guitar villain. I love Jagged Stone. I love this, like, this guy that is everything that the Beatles isn't.
He's what Russell Brand would be if he was a glam rock star. Right down to the shitty British accent.
And then his crocodile turns into a fucking dragon.
That was one of the more what the fuck moments. And like his entire fucking issue is this new music sucks.
Man, I fucking hate Justin Bieber.
I hate Justin Bieber and EDM at the same time.
I like EDM only on the fact that I like dubstep. Other than that, no. Other than that, yeah, I'm by no means a believer. You won't see me yelling and screaming bloody murder at him if I ever see him across the street, but yeah, you won't find me listening to his music either.
Alright. Kung Fu, the one that looks like Goku with dark skin.
And his Marinette's uncle.
Yeah, he's Marinette's uncle. You'd think that would make him more memorable. It doesn't.
Hey,
Weird
guys, wanna play a game? 3 guesses on who provoked him and 2 don't count.
Honestly, like Chloe just like ruins this guy because of nothing. Like she has
bored and picky.
Yeah, like she bitches to her dad to let her be a judge in a food contest, and then doesn't like what this guy cooks and tampers with his food so that he loses intentionally.
Just because she hates soup.
Like
and
fucking
she's a bitch.
Like Chloe's just the worst. Overall, it's a weird episode. It's not a bad one to watch, but you probably won't feel like going back to it a whole lot.
Except for watching Ladybug drop Chloe because she could.
Alright, Vashi's away from keyboard right now, so we'll just ask him for quick thoughts when he gets back. This is going on longer than I thought it would. Gamer. The first person that Marinette akumatizes.
Unintentionally.
Yeah, she wanted to be in the video game tournament with Adrian, so she beat Max and took his place, and Max didn't take that so well. Gamer's whole theme is that he pilots a video game mech, and so Ladybug and Cat Noir have to pilot their own mech to fight him. And it's a pretty fun fight to watch. But ultimately, that's what it amounts to. Nothing?
Nope.
Alright. Reflecta. I have mixed feelings about this one. I really like Julika, and I was expecting her to get more gothic villain form. Instead, we get this like red and pinkish like ball gown form where her power is making people look like her. Which I get the point about that. Pictures for her never go well, and she's tired of not being noticed. I feel for her there. So, I like it, but I was also expecting something different for the character. So I have conflicting feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I like Julika too. She's got a lot of potential to her. I just don't. Yeah, this was not one of the better episodes, if I'm being honest.
But we get to see Cat Noir in a dress and high heels.
Shut up.
Uh,
I'm not against cross dressing. Please don't think that, but
no, it's
come
just
on,
like,
not like that.
honestly. Puppeteer. Her power is
Yay.
controlling other villains through voodoo dolls of them. So, some past villains, Lady Wi-Fi, Roger Cop, and Eve Illustrator, return in this episode under Puppeteer's control.
As does Cat Noir.
And it's actually not a bad episode. Manon, again, she's a little brat, but she's also, like, at the time, she was the youngest person to get akumatized, and what happens when you give a child superpowers? Like,
All
let's see.
hell breaks loose.
She's not the only kid, and she's not the youngest at the current point, but at the time, this was all we got for a literal child, and not just high school students.
See Sapoti later.
Or a Gigan Titan.
Don't talk about that one.
Alright. Vanisher. Sabrina is completely and entirely justified.
Amen.
Anti-Bug. Chloe
Yay,
deserved
my
it. Chloe, so Chloe getting akumatized, she deserves it because of how many people she caused to get akumatized.
No joke, this episode first aired, my first thought was, took you geniuses long enough.
And being the opposite of Ladybug, we get a really cool fight between them. I like seeing them, like, clashing yo-yos.
And some cleverness from Marinette, too.
Yeah. I was hoping Vashi would be back by now, because we only have one left.
Damn.
Volpina.
Ooh, I've been waiting for this one. Yeah, you all been hearing me bitch on Chloe? I got another one.
Oh. Lila is the new girl in school, transferred in. And, hey, she lives an amazing life. She knows Prince Ali, she knows Jagged Stone. Like, she's flown in jets and such. She is the best pathological liar you will ever meet.
You're not kidding.
And everyone just eats it all up.
Except for Marinette and Adrian, because they're the smart ones.
Well, to be fair, one of Lila's lies was, I'm best friends with Ladybug.
Ugh. Like, did Alia believe it too, or?
She only said that one to Adrian.
Okay.
But since Vashi's not here, I'll just say it. In season 3, in the first episode that has aired,
yes. Okay.
Marinette tries explaining to Ali and Nino that Lila is a liar, using that as an argument. Like, yeah, she claims to be best friends with Ladybug, and Alia says, "Well, do you have any proof that she isn't?" Because Alia doesn't know that Marinette is Ladybug, and Marinette can't just say yes because. ...
Hi.
So while Alia isn't straight up saying that Marinette is wrong, she is saying you can't just accuse people of this without proof. And Alia doesn't know that Marinette has proof.
Yeah, fair.
So it's that situation of she might be lying, but I can't say she's not, so.
Okay. I know that Marinette technically triggered this one, and she understands what happened, and she knows that this is her fault, and she does try to fix it multiple times, even. But can I still say that I don't like this bitch at all?
Oh, you have every reason not to like her.
Yay! This bitch sucks!
In the current season, she's shaping up to be worse than Chloe.
And maybe even on par with Hawkmoth, considering this is a slight spoiler, but hell, I'm gonna say it. She is now endeavoring to make this poor girl's life a living hell because she can. What the fuck?
Yeah, she doesn't know that Marinette is Ladybug, but because Marinette knows she lies and it called her out on it, Lila decides, alright, if you're not with me, then you're against me. Prepare to lose. And Marinette's response to that is, okay. And doesn't give Lila the satisfaction of seeing her get angry or anything.
This bitch. What?
Don't know where Vashi is at.
Dude.
And we actually can't end without him because he's the one streaming.
Oh crap. Alright, well, what else is there to talk about that?
Well, I was gonna get into my theories about how the Miraculous work.
Ooh,
with
please, by all means.
with Vashi, but alright, I guess I can get started. Which is basically, it comes down to how everyone behaves differently when they transform. And
Save
part of
Hawkmoth.
no, he also behaves differently.
How? He's in both forms.
But okay. So to use that episode from season 2 where he is tormenting Nuru and makes him not able to talk, he lets him talk again right away, saying, even I wouldn't be that cruel.
Still.
He felt that he was joking. But then when we see him turned into Hawkmoth later and he learns about the Kwami, he tells them, I will make you all my slaves. Gabriel Agreste does not, he treats Nuru like a slave, but he doesn't think that he is that cruel. He doesn't think that he's actually treating him like a slave. Just, protecting himself. I can't let you go anywhere because I can't have myself exposed. I can't have you say anything that would give me away.
Because he's a dick.
Hawkmoth, however, will get so overcome with himself that he'll talk about taking over the world. And so what I feel happens here is that when they transform with the Miraculous enhance your emotions. Specifically ones that you want enhanced. Marinette has no confidence in herself, but Ladybug is one of the most confident peak characters on the show. Adrian is very reserved, as he was raised to be, but Cat Noir can cut loose and break free and be however he wants to be. Gabriel Agreste is not evil. He's choosing to be the villain because he doesn't see another way to get what he wants. He needs to get the Miraculous, so he needs to lure them out by being the villain. So he has that mindset when he becomes Hawkmoth, and it enhances his evil emotions, and he gets overcome with himself that he is far more cruel than he intends to be.
I still say he's a dick either way.
Yes. But I'm saying Gabriel Agreste is not evil. Hawkmoth is.
You agree to disagree?
Sure. Vashi, where are you?
I have no idea.
Sorry, folks, that this is going on a lot longer than we intended, but if you're still listening at this point, thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Has anyone been commenting on this stream through YouTube?
Yes, but it's the same chick from last time.
So nothing...
Well, actually, there is one other guy. Grisby, if you can hear me, I'm talking to you.
No, like, comments that we can call out? Any questions to be answered?
Not that I'm seeing right now. Nope. Bashik. Dude. This is weird.
He's helping his wife right now.
Ah, gotcha. Never mind.
But I'll let him know that if he's too busy to come back, then we can just end it here.
Okay.
So that's Miraculous Ladybug Season 1.
And who knows there's a lot to come?
Oh yeah, there's a lot that goes on in Season 2 that we're gonna do another podcast for that when Vashi watches it.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
Yay!
Maybe even Zero will have watched it by then. We didn't get too much into the other supporting characters, so... Oh.
I'm back. I apologize. I ended up having to help my wife with some stuff that unfortunately is taking precedence over this.
I said some things that you should come back and listen to later when you have a chance, Vashi.
Will do. But I have to actually call it quits tonight, so unfortunately we have to wrap this up.
Yeah, King and I finished saying everything we wanted to. If you don't have time to give your thoughts on those last few villains, then we can end it here.
I'll add that to the next podcast we do for this. But thank you all for listening and sticking around for 2 hours of Miraculous Ladybug and Cat Noir.
Now it's a record.
Yes. At least for Toku Portal. We will be back next Tuesday and Wednesday for our normally scheduled podcast for Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger and Kamen Rider Zeo. And this weekend, tomorrow, there will be a podcast on my channel, Opencast, for Kamen Rider Fies. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you next time.
Go ahead.
See you next time.
Until next time, adieu, mon ami.